Okay, I guess I didn't record this, so I'm doing it now. So, we're going to talk about sex, and I believe that I talked about the fact that you guys were all evolutionary losers because you don't have kids. So, and I also talked a little bit about the advantages of having sex, including um, advantages in changing environments, whether in spatially or temporally, in other words, in time. But now we're going to get to the nuts and bolts of sex, which includes sperm, eggs and sperm. Now, just so you know, there's some animals that have sex, but their gametes are the same size gametes. One's not bigger than the other. But most of sexual reproduction that we're going to talk about here is going to be eggs and sperm. And of course, the organs that produce these gametes, in other words, where meiosis happens, is the testes and the ovaries. So these are called reproductive organs. Gametogenesis involves which type of cell division? I believe I asked you this, and I got the answer meiosis 1. Okay. So, in this, with this new aquatic species, reproduce sexually, individuals release gametes into the water where fertilization takes place. One parent is big, aggressive, and releases larger gametes. The other parent is smaller, kind of cute, and releases smaller gametes. Which one is the female? Well, that's fairly simple. Parent A. Okay, so generally, when we talk about gender-based differences, females lay eggs, which are bigger, and males do sperm, which are smaller, usually a lot smaller. So, with external fertilization, you're not really required, well, at least with aquatic environments, you're supposedly not required, it doesn't require an animal to do it. In fact, I've asked this, and are there any sorts of animals that require another animal to carry its gametes to, let's say, the female for fertilization? Okay. And in terms of pollination for plants, oftentimes it requires an animal to do the work. Of course, it's better, you don't have to usually release as much pollen compared to just the wind. And they do them simultaneously, of course, or it wouldn't work. In fact, in coral reefs, the timing is highly synchronized, so that only certain coral species release gametes at certain times on certain days. And they all do it at once, because obviously if you have individuals doing it at different times, then we're not going to get fertilization. Pollen is essentially plant sperm. It is either carried by the wind or animals, let's say insects, hummingbirds, bats. It gets to the female, so pollen is the male part, and it gets to the female part of the flower, mostly via these mechanisms, especially animal pollination. And some of it is, the pollination system is highly co-evolved so that certain kinds of creatures pollinate certain flowers. So, and then In terms of external fertilization, like I said with the coral, requires water or a protective coating for the gametes like pollen. So up here, we have some beetles copulating, some tortoises, some penguins. Internal fertilization allowed life to move away from water. Well, not entirely, because for plants, there's a lot of plants that have external fertilization, obviously, and it's either carried by animals or by the wind. But certainly with a lot of animals, it also allows inserting the sperm directly into where the eggs are going to be. And so it makes sure that instead of just willy-nilly throwing out sperm, hoping something hits the jackpot, this kind of ensures that the sperm gets to the eggs. Okay, I talked about this, and I mentioned Nemo. Nemo, remember the movie Nemo? There's a clownfish. The clownfish was the main character. Now, I want you to know that clownfish commonly change sexes, going from, I think, I'll have to find out, so hold on a second. Okay, back we go. So, well, first let me talk about hermaphrodites. It turns out most plants, or many plants, are hermaphrodites. They have a flower that has male and female sexual parts. Now, some plants can in other words, self-pollinate, but many can't. And so the pollen is released at a different time than when the female part is actually open or receptive. And in animals, there are a lot of, like mollusks, a lot of mollusks are hermaphrodites. There's this big yellow slug called a banana slug in the Pacific Northwest. And if you're walking along in the old growth forest early in the morning in the fog, a lot of times there'll be a couple of banana slugs hanging, kind of like just kind of hanging in the middle of nowhere, and they're connected by a long, thin, slimy string of slime. And they're both hermaphrodites, so they have male and female sexual parts. And the male part from one goes in the female part of the other, and vice versa. And a lot of times it's not really visible so well, so you're walking along and splash right in the face. So, those are hermaphrodites. But there's another kind of hermaphrodite, same sort of thing, except that they're sequential hermaphrodites. That means they're not both at once, but they start out as one sex, and then they change to another. So, in clownfish, like Nemo, so let's see here. Okay. Let's say that's Nemo. Now remember Nemo. He was a clownfish, hung out in the anemones, and he was the main character. Well, at one point in Nemo's life, he hasn't done it yet, but he will likely change into a female. So, in clownfish, they start out male, they go to female. In others, it goes the other way around. Now, what happens is, with clownfish, there's usually a dominant male and a dominant female and a bunch of juveniles that hang out. The juveniles get to stay with the anemones where it's safer. They don't breed or try to breed with the female, and then the male tolerates them. And they're juveniles, so they're smaller in size than the male. And then if the female, so there's only one female. If the female, something happens to her, she dies, the adult male who she mated with turns into a female. And the most dominant juvenile then becomes an adult male. So, it's kind of an interesting sort of life cycle. They're probably more advanced than humans in this regard, because of course, having been a male and then a female, they know what it's like. They can actually relate to both, being both sexes. So the old saw about men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Well, they don't have to worry about that. Okay. So we also talked earlier in the evolutionary part about nuptial gifts. So if you go out on a date, sometimes you might bring along a present to give to your date. Either the guy gives it to his date, or the girl gives it to her date, whatever it is, right? And obviously, the bigger the gift, the better it shows on you. It's basically like saying, oh, I can afford to waste all this money on a gift that really is kind of meaningless. Well, chocolates aren't meaningless. I mean, at least they got them calories. But let's say a ring. Well, a lot of insects bring nuptial gifts. The males go out and capture some other insect, let's say. So a lot with insects, and they bring that gift to the female. And then while the female is eating it, in this not this case, these are praying mantis, but let's say all these kind of sawflies that do this. While the female is eating on the gift, the male's copulating with her. And so if it's not a very big gift, he doesn't get to copulate very long. And she kind of judges on whether she's going to copulate at all with them based on the size of the gift. Now, and a nuptial gift often has benefits. It's actually a form of parental investment, because if you're giving a gift to the female, not only is she getting food, but she's got food now that she can devote to eggs and offspring. And hopefully those offspring are going to be yours. So, now, certain groups of, we do the same thing. So we're mammals, we bring nuptial gifts. A lot of birds, where the male provisions the female, but especially, for an example, bald eagles. Well, the male will often come in and deliver a fish to the female as far as the courting behavior. Or peregrine falcons. The female, the male brings it in, and they hand off in midair. So it's kind of the bonding principle. They mate for life, so it usually starts out, it's kind of a rebonding sort of thing. Well, with some insects like this praying mantis, okay, so these are predatory insects. They are voracious eaters. Well, unfortunately, the male is actually the nuptial gift to the female. So when the male comes in to copulate with female, the the female actually starts feeding on him. In fact, the female can actually feed on the male, let's say after it's taking his head off, and the male will still be copulating with her. So the male is not only providing a nuptial gift and future resources for their offspring, but for the female as well. But boys, well, anyway, it's dangerous. You don't have much to look forward to, do you? I guess that's the end of it. Okay. So this is kind of where we left off. Breaking up is hard to do. We're dealing with anglerfish. In fact, I think what I'll do is I will insert that video that we ran on the anglerfish, and that'll end this part, and you can go to lecture capture for the rest of it. Okay, so as you can see from watching this video, you should be able to watch this video. Right? Okay, good. It goes on to show about the anglerfish, and we'll go off to the slide. So here's the anglerfish. In a lot of cases, males are only really sperm delivery devices. And for the anglerfish, they've kind of taken it to the extreme. The males are very small. They swim along. They are attracted to a pheromone given off by the female. The female is the big one. And they come in, and then they embed themselves into the female, where they become parasites while fertilizing her. But as they become parasites, they lose everything else but basically the gonads, or in other words, the testes. These are like swimming testes, and they embed into the female and release sperm. And then apparently, if she's got a bunch of different males, she can choose which male sperm she's going to accept. So that's it for now. The rest is on lecture capture. Bye-bye.